So moving on to the platform, I'm going to bounce kind of back and forth between these slides, but there's a couple of main components. So the first component is a dashboard. So this is, the command center for your vendor management. So here you can at a glance be able to see the different categories of vendors, who's in violation, what those violations are, and what things are going on inside of your network. The next piece of it is the vendor profile. So our system's a social network, so it functions a lot like Facebook would or LinkedIn, except our events are SOC 3s, insurance coverage, audits, bonding policies, etc., and not pokes and check-ins and pictures, etc. So similar to Facebook, if you and I become friends on Facebook and we check in at a restaurant or at an event, all of my friends would get an alert saying that Ed was there. All of your friends would get a similar alert saying that you were there. In our context, when this text, if we're following this tech services company that's a demo account and they post their SOC 3, everyone that's following them gets an alert. And then also, if I have a compliance rule set for that's looking for their SOC 3, then that will automatically be checked off on my monitoring, and I won't have to chase them down for that information. The next component is our events. So going back, we have dashboards, we have profiles, and we have events. And events are really the atomic level transaction in our system. Events go onto the timeline of a vendor. They can be put there either by you, by another financial institution, by an automatic feed, let's say news feed or bankruptcy court feed or something like that. They can also be customized. So these events can be things like in this example, we're showing a SOC 1 report, but you can also create custom events that may be an internal review. So it's nice I got their SOC report, but I also need my IT director to do an internal review of their SOC report and give me notes and a report on that. That event would go on to the timeline of that company, but it would be in such a way that only I could see that event or only our team could see that event. The next part of our platform that makes it powerful are the monitoring rules. So we can look for things happening and we can also ensure that things aren't happening. So for instance, you on the timeline, you may want to see every quarter a new SOC report or a new insurance coverage every year. You also never want to see a bankruptcy. So we go in and we part at our dashboard. If you add these companies to the different sections of the dashboard, we will go out and scan these companies for those rule sets. So these rules reside in each of these. So tier 1 has their set of rules. Tier 2 has their set of rules. And these rules can be nested events. They can, I want it to be like, here's a trust exchange financial statement. I can have a financial statement exists is completed on time, or an audit exists, or they've been reviewed by a CPA, or so on and so forth. So these can be daisy chained with ors, ands, or a combination of ands and ors that fulfill your risk requirements for each of these categories. So these monitoring rules exist in the dashboard in each of these categories, and you can have multiple rules in each category. So here may be my tier 1 highest risk vendors, and I want my tier 1 IT checklist to apply to these and monitor them for these things, true and false. I want to have the business continuity rules checked here. I also want to have to make sure that they're an entity in good standing and active and so on and so forth. So there's a whole set of rules, events. Here are all the different events that we have. We have custom events. I want a SAR box check. I want a TSP exam, FFIEC level 1, FFIEC level 2. So you can monitor them for these things. If they're a vendor and they are on your list and their profile's claimed, they will get a notice saying, hey, you need to submit your FFIEC checklist to this credit union in order for you to fulfill your compliance requirements. So that's basically the platform in a nutshell, but it all gets knitted together, and we'll show you in a demo here in a second. But just to review again, dashboards and also reports. So we have dashboards and reports. where all of the information as you configure the system gets pushed to you on a daily basis. These dashboards can also be set up in a hierarchy. For instance, let's say I'm the chief risk officer of a credit union and I can see the whole picture, but I want to delegate the management of my IT vendors to my IT director. I want to delegate my staffing vendors to my head of outsourcing. So they will manage those relationships independently, and they can have their own dashboards to see how are my vendors doing, or hey, I need some temp staffing for the Christmas holiday, and which of my vendors are fulfilling their requirements here for me, and I can use the vendors that are green and ignore the vendors that are red. The next piece is vendor profiles. This is where the events go. They could be standard events, which we have a couple hundred standard events in our system, bonding policies, audits, SOC 3, SOC 1s, SSAE 16, FFIEC, so on and so forth. And then they can be custom events for your organization to further get more audit eyes on each vendor and their profiles. They can also be events from certain feeds that we may choose to integrate, or you may choose to integrate, etc. We also have the events themselves, which we just talked about, and then finally the monitoring rules. So we will monitor the profiles based on your criteria of each of the companies you're monitoring for these rule sets. And these rule sets are very powerful. You can daisy chain ands and ors, and also change the frequency. So you can say this, I want to look at this quarterly, I want to look at this monthly, etc.